But we must follow process. Why is Donald Trump not telling us why he's killing, why he's going to go wage war with Iran? Like, we know why he's doing it. Why are you giving him fucking legitimacy? Let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. Trump hails Iran deal as details emerge. A new Treaty of Versailles has been unlocked, and this time we're also not dissimilar to another country that had famously signed a treaty at Versailles that was a huge historic defeat that then led that country into, a dark pit of despair and fascism. I'm, of course, talking about the United States of America and also Germany. We are Germany in this equation. Let's be real. And who knows where we will go. Hopefully, unlike the failed German Revolution, this time we won't allow fascism to win. It is hilarious. I don't think Trump knows what this symbolizes at all. I'm willing to bet Donald Trump had no fucking clue that him signing this would literally be the identical situation. Now, it's not in a train car, so maybe it's a little different, right? But ultimately, this is, I mean, I was thinking about this. I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like how similar this is. Like how things never change. Like it sometimes feels like history is playing a trick on us, right? Like it's 1-to-1. An immovable object is met by an unstoppable force, a seemingly unstoppable force that is stoppable. Democrats will run in November on punishing the June criminals, revising the Treaty of Versailles, and redeeming our national honor. Yeah. Yeah, that worries me a little bit because then it's like the Democrats are going to do the stabbed in the back myth. The Democrats. Someone's going to do the stabbed in the back myth. And, well, I do think that someone is actually fucking the Republicans currently. They're the ones who are doing it. Surrender document being signed at Versailles. Yeah. Gay Hitler is one step closer to being real. I mean, gay Hitler was real. He was just Adolf Hitler. This is the second coming of gay Hitler. Everything is the same, man. It's crazy.
Overnight in the gilded halls of Versailles, President Trump putting pen to paper.
This was not easy.
Signing the deal which reopens the critical Strait of Hormuz, rewards Iran financially, and lays the groundwork for 60 days of talks to resolve Iran's nuclear program. The president acknowledging Iran's stranglehold on the strait was putting too much pressure on the American economy.
I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace, the stock market shot up like a rocket ship.
But for weeks, the president has insisted the financial strain on Americans wasn't a motivating factor in his negotiations.
Well, he was
Not
lying.
even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation.
Under the deal, Iran and the country of Oman will administer the strait, something that was not the case before the war. The waterway will reopen toll-free, but it's unclear if that will hold when the 60 days runs out. In return for reopening the strait, Iran will see immediate financial relief. For the first time in years, the U.S. lifting restrictions, allowing Iran to freely sell oil. The U.S. also committing to negotiate lifting all sanctions against Iran and the release of billions of dollars in frozen Iranian assets if certain progress is made.
It's not our money, it's their money, and we froze it. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back.
But last month, the president said this.
No, we're not talking about any easing of sanctions or giving money. No sanctions, no money, no nothing.
As for the issue at the heart of this conflict, Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons.
One of the funniest aspects of this deal has been, in an effort to criticize the Trump administration, obviously taking this ginormous L, liberals have now recognized something that they never recognized for some weird reason, which is the idea that Iran already had signed off on its reaffirmation that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons, both in the JCPOA and also in the numerous rounds of negotiations that took place where America and Israel engaged in an act of perfidy and struck Iran. Well, where was that energy before? It's so strange because if I recall correctly, 110, 111, 120 days ago, no liberal was saying this. As a matter of fact, they kept repeatedly saying Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, giving sufficient reason for Donald Trump to take some kind of militant action. Where was everybody on that note? Now that the Memorandum of Understanding is being signed and a war is ending, liberals have remembered that Iran had always said that they were not going to procure or develop nuclear weapons. How interesting. Liberals have now taken to saying the Strait of Hormuz used to be open and Iran had committed to not developing nuclear weapons before Donald Trump attacked Iran. So what have we gotten out of this deal? Well, nothing. But where was that fucking energy when Donald Trump was initiating this conflict at the behest of Israel? Where was that understanding in the beginning? Trump got Iran to promise not to develop nukes, which it already did, and get the Strait of Hormuz open, which it already was. Them should stick to that note and not the dem handout to the terrorist stuff. Yes, that is what the Democrats are talking about. That is what the Democrats are advancing as a talking point. But I don't think we should let them get away with the fact that they weren't saying that beforehand. Many of the Democrats were not saying this fact beforehand. And yeah, Democrats with a B. No B, sorry. Democrats, no B. It's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. If you recall, there was one guy who kept fucking repeating this point over and over again, trying to hammer it. I was like, hey, Democrats, you already have the JCPOA. You can just point to that. You can just point to the JCPOA over and over again. Meanwhile, this is what they're coming up with. I'm for the war ending, but no buts. It's good. It's good that this war is ending. The lesson to be learned here is we shouldn't be waging wars. We should be charting a different path forward. We should be engaging in diplomacy. We should be exhausting all available options of diplomacy. Always and forever. This was my take last night. I said, Iran won. Not yesterday. It won when it closed the Strait of Hormuz after we attacked Iran. And we did that at the behest of Israel. Now, what's interesting about this is that Iran had actually refused to do this thing that they had the power to do for decades, as Mossad and the CIA were meddling in their affairs, as the United States had implemented some of the worst sanctions that they had ever seen. And they never used this tool that they had in the tool belt for decades. Why? Perhaps foolishly, they were willing to do diplomacy the entire time. The lesson to learn here is that we should stop demanding more war. We should stop this endless militarism. We should stop our economic sanctions terror regime. Democrats, stop demanding more war. This is good. It's fucking ridiculous. stop legitimizing why Trump might take military action, because it's going to happen in Cuba. It's going to happen in Cuba, and I know Democrats are going to be like, well, Cuba is an authoritarian nightmare with a horrible economy, but Trump is not following the process. If I hear Democrats say this, oh my Lord, oh my fucking Lord, do not give credence to why American militarism must continue while simultaneously offering finger-wagging notes on process. It's unbelievably stupid. Americans hear you say that and go, okay, then yeah, of course Donald Trump is going to behave in the way that Donald Trump does. This is what they did with Iran. The entirety of the Republicans were obviously on board with senseless death and destruction, because they always are. And while the Democratic Party's base of support was begging for an end to our unlimited allegiance with Israel, and Donald Trump was being directed by Benjamin Netanyahu, being played like a fiddle by Benjamin Netanyahu, who was openly saying like, oh, I wanted to do this for fucking decades, and finally I found a sucker dumb enough to follow through on this. Democrats kept repeatedly saying Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Iran is a horrible authoritarian country. Iran is killing all of its protesters. Iran has killed 10 million Iranians with a nuclear weapon that only kills Iranian civilians that refuse to wear the hijab. All of this stuff. Don't do this. Important lesson for you to learn. I watched this yesterday. Yes, Master Shake going ape shit. I watched it yesterday. It was awesome.
Reaffirms because it's the same promise Iran made in the first line of the nuclear deal struck with President Obama. But unlike the Obama deal, which Trump tore up during his first term, this agreement with Trump makes no other nuclear commitments, no plan to dispose of its highly enriched uranium. Instead, the agreement is to continue negotiating. As an incentive, the U.S. says it will work with regional partners to commit $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of Iran. Money Trump insists will not come from American taxpayers. On day one of the war, Trump vowed to obliterate Iran's military and missile capacity. But now, a change in tone.
They have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some.
On Capitol Hill, members of both parties slamming the deal.
This looks like a great deal for Iran and a terrible deal for the United States of America.
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy posting before the war the strait was open, Iran was being crushed by sanctions, and 13 service members were still alive. Now, 13 Americans are dead. Families have paid billions at the pump. Sanctions will be lifted, and the bombing has stopped. Adding, this is the worst foreign policy blunder in decades.
And this morning, President Trump is firing back at his critics, saying those who think he hasn't been tough enough on Iran are, quote, either jealous, bad people, or stupid. Meanwhile, Iran's chief negotiator is claiming victory. Robin.
All right, Mayor, thanks to you.
Gas prices continue to fall in the wake of an initial deal with...
Yeah. Here's an important element. Like I said, over and over again for the past couple of days now, since the MOU was like potentially being signed, you are about to see the Israel lobby tuned up, cranked up to 1 million. Okay? You're about to see shit that the Zionist lobby has not even done yet. Like new weapons to surpass the Metal Gear being deployed here for propaganda. Okay? Netanyahu's office briefing CNN that they basically see specific journalists and politicians like Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin are named later in the article as assets they can activate at the flip of a switch. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is aiming to influence the final Iran deal, according to an Israeli source. using right-wing media figures and friendly senators to exert pressure on President Donald Trump. Again, this is a very important part of how the Israel lobby works. In many contexts, the money is less important than more personal networks of influence connecting key figures like these. And it doesn't even matter that these guys don't have a real viable audience, for the record. What matters is they have access to Trump. They have Trump's ear. They can talk to Trump. They can chew his ear off. And that's how Israel gets to exert its influence. Like, for example, Israel doesn't have any popularity in the American masses any longer. But what can they do? They can go after prominent critics of Israel, ritualistically humiliate them, bully them, deploy bot farms at them, try to activate their editorial teams in media outlets that are supportive of the cause, supportive of Zionism, to engage in this manufactured outrage machine, activate their advocacy network, their organizations, their NGOs, to make a big fuss about where certain people are going. I mean, I've experienced this, right? I've experienced this personally. To create an environment of pressure and fear when they know that the public, the masses, have moved on. The masses are demanding something entirely different. This is how you subvert the democratic process. This is how you make it seem like in the halls of power that there is still a tremendous amount of support and a tremendous amount of leverage. Are you the guy who shocked his dog and fucked some guy's mom after? Yes, I did. Yours. And the dad. But that is how this works. Anyway, as I was saying, like the Zionist lobby's influence campaign is not going to work on the masses because the masses have moved on from Israel. The masses don't like Israel. Israel is a pariah state in the eyes of many people for good reason. However, they still have tremendous amounts of influence and tremendous amounts of leverage over people in positions of power. There are also obviously people who are ideologically in support of this project in certain media outlets that will do their very best to try to create some kind of pressure, to try to create some kind of fuss, to manufacture some kind of outrage. And it's important for us not to fucking lean into that. It's important for us not to understand exactly what that is and not fall victim to this kind of propaganda, to fall victim to these sorts of attempts. I don't recognize President Trump sometimes says Uttar Pradesh's very own vivid prowess. His tone, his way of words, the way he somehow, for some degree, defends the number one sponsor of terror, the Islamic regime in Iran, while at the same time criticizing Israel for defending itself. What on earth is going on? Americana says, being frank about what everyone knows is true, but is never allowed to say is exactly how Trump talked in 2016 and is what gave him broad popular appeal. We could have kept the war going and the strait would still be closed, objectively true. We can't tell Iran they're not allowed to have ballistic missiles when everyone else has them is a statement of fact. Europe said he's not regurgitating delusional talking points written in Tel Aviv while doubling down on destroying the global economy. There are dozens of things he could be saying that are also true, but so unacceptable politically, even he can't say them. I'll take it, though. And this is a great example, by the way. This is a great example of Trump just saying the fucking truth, right? It lives in my mind permanently about Vladimir Putin and about, our guys.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world.
Right.
Major fight. That's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea. It's very
He's a
possible
killer,
I
though.
won't.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
That is a banger. I think a lot of people refuse to comprehend how much mileage you can get out of just simply saying the truth that many politicians are refusing to say. Zohran Mamdani did this with Israel, if you recall. When they were like, where would you go? Why wouldn't you travel to Israel first? Just like all of your other counterparts on this debate stage. And he was like, because I'm fucking trying to be the mayor of New York. I don't give a shit about going to Israel. Like, that is a moment of naked honesty that every single person intrinsically understands. And yet they also understand another thing. The fact that many politicians will refuse to say the truth like that for some weird reason, right? Those moments of clarity, those moments of honesty help so much. They allow you to chart a different path. They allow you to break through the noise. They allow you to rise up above the rest of the political class. Because people also get it. People get it. Donald Trump had so many moments like that in 2016 on the debate stage, where he would point to everyone else and go, as a billionaire, I've bought all these guys. Now, obviously, he's still a corrupt monster, but the point remains that politicians rarely ever deploy the truth. If you have truth and justice on your side and you say it out loud, you can have confidence that the masses will respond in kind. You can have confidence that the masses will understand where you're coming from, and they will reward you with loyalty. Ryan Grimm has a clever little, summarization of some of the common sense things Trump said today that were nevertheless shocking. Everybody else has ballistic missiles. Why can't Iran? The frozen money belonged to Iran, and the U.S. needed to release it. Otherwise, nobody would trust the dollar system. Why should we steal their money? Neighboring countries use nuclear power for electricity. Why can't Iran? Israel shouldn't knock down entire buildings in Beirut every time a drone or two crashes harmlessly in the desert. Trump would have become Herbert Hoover in the next few weeks once oil ran out and the market crashed. He had no choice but to end the war. That's it. These are not rare things that people can comprehend. These are actually very commonplace opinions amongst the masses, at least amongst the masses that are knowledgeable on the issue. These are things I say all the time. And yet, while most people get it, there is still this environment in mainstream outlets in polite society where, like, you're not supposed to say those things. So when Trump comes out and says those things, a lot of people go, wait a minute, he's right. We don't have any confidence in the masses. We don't believe that the average person is capable of seeing right from wrong, or the average person is capable of seeing the truth when someone says it. A lot of our politicians are afraid. They're afraid that they're going to get bullied by the media.